Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, this is AshQuest, and today I want to talk to you about Mint Tin Games, specifically Gnome Games' Tin Helm. Tin Helm is a perilous solo micro quest designed by Jason Glover, illustrated by Jason Glover and Daniel E. Waltall, the creators of Iron Helm, and it's my first Tin game, actually my first Gnome Games game. A game that I discovered about halfway through 2024 and one that quickly became one of my favorite dungeon crawlers and easily in the top 10 games for me 2024. I have become slightly addicted to the form factor and the simplicity of tin games, which take the elements, both physical and conceptual, of larger board game boxes and shrink them down to a much more appropriate, palatable, and portable size. I've become addicted to the idea of the Mint Tin game, as you can see, and we'll cover the other games that I have amassed in the future. For now, I want to show you one of the finest examples of the Mint Tin game, and that will be Tin Helm, part of the Tin series, Volume 3. And no, you don't have to play the other games in the Tin series, or what Gnome Games calls its Tin series, to be able to enjoy Tin Helm. Tin Helm is kind of a micro Iron Helm. If you like Tin Helm, chances are you will like Iron Helm and vice versa. It is boiled down to much more simple rules, fewer elements, but all of the feel is there, and the game is absolutely dripping with lore and thematic flavor on every card. The Brotherhood of the Red Cloth long made their home deep in the abandoned mines of the Black Mountains, but a sickness came upon them as they delved too deep. And their minds have been twisted, and their attention has shifted to creating wicked evils. Darkness now lives here, and only a true hero can cure the madness that has consumed all. Tin Helm is for one player, ages 12 and up, and should take about 30 minutes per game. Let's pop this open and see what all it comes with. There's a lot here in a tiny package. We'll empty it out completely, sort our stuff on the table. First up, we have our 14-page instruction manual, which is actually a series of 7 cards that are double-sided that explain the ins and outs of the game. They do a pretty good job of breaking all of the information down in a simple and easy-to-follow manner. You might think that those terms are interchangeable, but they are not. We have 3 reference cards. These are also double-sided, and they will help you remember the mechanics and workings of different locations that you will encounter in Tin Helm. There are 4 tracking cards that will track the various stats, your progress throughout the dungeon, your enemy's health, and so on. And the backs of them have a really cool illustration that they all line up to create. There are 4 race and class cards. The races that come with regular Tin Helm, more on that in just a second, are human, crawling, which is a crow people that I really like, merfolk, and gnome. The opposite sides of these cards are the classes, alchemist, footpad, parson, and marauder, and they all have their own stats, which we'll also go over in a moment. There are 4 trappings cards. These are the items that your character can start with, and the items will be specified on your class card. Books, which allow you to gain 1 extra energy when you rest at a campsite. A toolkit, which allows you to attempt to disarm traps. A dagger, which allows you to inflict an additional 1 damage on successful hits when you are resolving the first dungeon card. And a potion, which allows you to discard this card from play to gain 2 health and 2 energy. But these are double-sided, so you actually have also 4 more trappings. The axe, which allows you to reroll when you roll doubles during combat, which is important because rolling doubles means you miss. And you can throw the axe by discarding the card to deal damage equal to the sum of rolling 2 dice. And in that case, we may need to consult an FAQ to see if rolling doubles is a miss. From there, the scroll. When encountering an undead enemy, you may discard this card to vanquish them, but you'll gain no favor when defeating an enemy in this manner. A mace. When in combat against an undead enemy, you inflict an additional 1 damage on successful hits. And the bedroll. Gain 1 extra health when you rest at a campsite. You will choose one of the races here, which each have their own special racial ability, such as gnomes performing both actions at the campsite instead of picking one, merfolk resolving locations with a water icon and gaining 1 health or 1 energy, player's choice. Usually encountering such a space, you are rolling a 6-sided dice to see if you successfully fish. So this is a nice extra bonus. The crawling, who can flip a single die to the reverse side when determining damage once per dungeon level. And the human, which may select one extra trappings card of their choice from the remaining cards before beginning their adventure. When you pick your race, you flip the other 3 race cards over to determine which class you would like. You cannot have the class that is on the back of the race card that you choose, so you can't be a human who is also an alchemist, and so on. The 4 cards are Alchemist, which start with the Books and Potion, Footpad, which start with the Dagger and Toolkit, Parson, which starts with the Mace and Scroll, and Marauder, which starts with the Axe and Bedroll. Likewise, your chosen class will never start with an item that is on the opposite side of a card, where the opposite side is also an item that they start with. It'll always be 2 different cards that come with you. They've all got their own, let me do it this way. You will determine your starting health by adding together the 2 values from your race and class. Then you'll determine your starting energy by combining the 2 values from your race and class. You may start with rations, which are very important for your adventure. And the 3 numbers here represent how much additional damage you can do if you sacrifice energy in an attack. So by using 1 additional energy, you'll add 1 to your attack. By sacrificing 2 energy, you can add 5. And if you are up against a really tough enemy, it's down to the wire and you have enough energy to spare, you can sacrifice 3 of your energy to add 8 to your attack. That's just the Marauder class. All the classes have different levels of damage that they can do when you sacrifice energy in this manner, but be careful because they also have different amounts of health and energy that they contribute to your overall max health and energy. Finally, the game comes with 12 dungeon cards, 8 enemy cards, and 8 loot cards. And by finally, I mean that's all the cards. The game comes with 2d6, 1 translucent red meeple, 5 colored cubes. They'll refer to this color as red, although it's not quite red. As the camera picks up, it is kind of a yellowish orange. 1 white, 1 blue, 1 green, and 3 special crystal shapes that come in this nice pink, which are called shards. These are the object of the game. A quick look at the loot cards reveals that we have a sword, a wedge, a potion, a turnip. This might seem like a really funny card, perhaps a joke, but I celebrate when I get one of these. A symbol, a shield, a ring, and a gillnet, all highly useful items to get. But be careful, because in your enemy deck, you have the Skelipede. And by the way, if you've played any of Jason Glover's games, some of these enemies will look familiar because they all kind of seem to exist in the same universe. So a lot of the artwork, while original for that enemy, is going to be of enemies that you may have seen before, which I think is really cool. The Watcher, the Dark Rats, the Spider, the Mimic, the Doomskull, the Possessor, and the Wraith. None of them are fun, none of them are good, none of them are easy, except for maybe, I'd call the Dark Rats pretty easy, and if you fight the Dark Rats, you actually gain 1 food. Yummy! I'm going to show you the dungeon cards while I explain how exactly this game is played. Today we'll go with a human parson, and we will have our mace and scroll trapping items. The human is able to select 1 extra trappings card. We'll go ahead and grab the potion, a consumable item that allows us to recover 2 health and 2 energy. Our meeple is going to start on level 1 of the dungeon. Our human is going to have a total of 9 plus 4, so 13 health, and we'll place this. I actually like to arrange these cards a little bit differently. 13 health. We start with no favor. We start with no poison. Our enemies don't have health yet, so we'll just place that on the pile of skulls and just realize I still have this set up wrong. Here we go. This is the most intuitive setup, and it is also the way that the game recommends you set up your play space. We have no shards. They'll just go off to the side for now. We have no rations. We start with 0, so that will go down here, and then we have a total of 10 energy to play with. And now it's time to play. 10 Helm. Every dungeon card is going to have a picture of the dungeon room, in this case our first card, which is quarters, and it will have 2 icons down below, in this case an enemy icon and a treasure icon. We get to decide if we would like to explore this room or if we would like to skip this room and explore the one next. We don't get to see what that room is, we're just kind of pushing our luck based on what the 2 symbols down below are. You see, the name of the room and the illustration of the room are inconsequential. They don't help us at all. But the symbols at the bottom give us an idea of what we're going to encounter. So in this case, I think a combat right now is fine because it will be followed up with a treasure. So we will go ahead and take this card for our room that we're going to explore. The next card is still going to be used because these cards are double-sided, and on the opposite side, you get the result of what you're going to come across should you find these symbols on the preceding card. Now, the monster is going to be a watcher, and the treasure chest is going to be empty, so I actually kind of blew it there. The watcher sucks, and the treasure chest doesn't have anything in it. Alright, so here's the watcher. We have to do some deck searching to find our monster. Sometimes it does say that you're going to fight a random monster, so you'll pull a random card from the enemy deck, but you lose 1 energy before combat even begins when fighting a watcher. So I take my energy down 1, and now we determine the enemy's health. It's always going to be the health listed on the card plus the dungeon level. We're in dungeon level 1 and the enemy health is 4, so that's going to be 5. We'll place the enemy's health tracking cube on the 5. The enemy doesn't go first, we do, and we're just going to attack. The enemy's not an undead, so our mace's special ability is not going to come into effect, and we can't use our scroll. I'll just roll. I'm not going to put any additional energy behind my attack, and that was a bad idea because I rolled a terrible roll. Now, this is probably the worst roll that you can have, but you have a 1 in 6 chance of rolling it because in this game, you don't roll and add your totals. You roll and subtract the lower die from the higher die. That's why doubles are always misses. So even if you roll a 5 and a 6, that's still going to give you a sum of 1 for your attack. And if the enemy, such as this one in this case, has a 1 by the shield icon on their card, it means that they will be able to absorb that hit without any damage. This enemy will be able to attack with a force of +1 behind their attack, useless if they roll doubles. They can defend, they have 4 health base plus the dungeon level, and they have 2 favor that they will grant whenever I beat them. Now, you would know if it was undead because there's a little skull in the corner that tells you if that enemy is undead. And undead enemies play by slightly, well, not even really different rules, but you can actually negotiate them in a number of ways. But for now, we apply my 1 damage, which is easily mitigated by the defense of the Watcher, and he attacks in return. If I had just added some energy behind that attack, a 5 and a 3, and again, just like we did with us, we subtract the 3 from the 5 for a total of 2, we add the attack, and that's 3 against me. I don't have any defensive items, and you don't roll for defense, you simply lose the health. So, it's 1, 2, 3. And now, combat continues in this manner until one of us dies. This is an excellent roll. It's a 4. And so after we subtract his 1 defense, that's going to take him down 3. 1, 2, 3. The enemy rolls back, and that's also, unfortunately, a great roll. That is a total of 4 because it's 1 subtracted from 5. And we're going to add 1 from the knife, so that actually takes us down to 5 health. This is a terrible fight. My luck is horrible. I roll again. Another terrible roll of a 1 and a 2 because I didn't put any energy behind my attack. And he attacks back this time with a 6 and 3. And wouldn't you know it, that's going to be 4 health. So that brings me down to a 1. All right, we're down to the wire, and I'm definitely going to lose my first televised game of Tin Helm. So I'm just going to go ahead and put 3 energy behind my attack. So I will get the bonus of adding 7 damage to my attack. Now, it doesn't matter what I roll, as long as I don't miss, this Watcher is going to die. And so I roll, and since it's not doubles, I don't miss, and the Watcher gets taken out. I earn 2 favor. That's energy I'll never get back, and that's not quite true. I'm going to go ahead and use the potion because I'm not having to resolve a card right now. This will regain me 2 health and 2 energy, which I absolutely need because this is only the first dungeon room. We're now ready to go into the second dungeon room. That was a series of bad luck, but mostly bad choices. So for our second one, we have a trap and a monster. I would prefer to not run into a trap and monster at this point. I'm going to not have this card be the one that we resolve. So I'm going to take this, flip it over, and place its results on the right side, and we're actually going to resolve the first card instead. So because it's catacombs, we're going to be fighting a monster, and then we have a question mark. And sometimes the question mark's a good thing, sometimes it's a really bad thing. Usually it's going to be one of the special locations here, but in this case, it's a doom skull. Crap, I have to fight 2 monsters, one right after the other. So the first monster is a possessor. Happily though, not all is lost. When you defeat a possessor, you gain 1 shard. There are multiple ways in this game to gain a shard. One is by defeating the possessor. One is by trading with the pigman, a turnip if one is in your possession. And another way of getting a shard is if you go to the shrine. You can also exchange 10 favor. Well, you don't even have to exchange it. If you have 10 favor, you'll gain a shard at the altar. If you get 3 shards, no matter when, upon getting that 3rd shard, you have won Tin Helm. So let's go ahead and take out this possessor. We'll go ahead and attack first, and we'll put the full might of 1, 2, 3 energy behind my attack. I hope that that's where that was. But we do get to attack first, and it's a 1 and a 2 because the game hates me, because these dice hate me. But it has a total power of 7, 8. It's an attack of 8. Now the possessor has 6 health. So let's set his health up and let's add 1 for the dungeon level. Obviously, the deeper you go into the dungeon, that means all of the enemies in the enemy deck will be stronger. And he's going to absorb 1 of those hits, which means it's only going to do 7 damage instead of 8, but that's enough to completely eradicate him. I was not having it. My human said, I can't take any chances. I nearly lost my life in that last battle. These enemies will die. They will go down by my hand. I have defeated the possessor and I have gained my very first shard, which I will place on my human card. You can put it wherever you want. In addition, I have 2 favor, so we'll raise our favor to 4. Favor, you could kind of think of it as experience points. It's not quite the same. You get benefits depending on special abilities of trappings or loot cards that you have, and sometimes your favor matters when you are visiting certain places. But we don't visit these, they come up in the adventure as we go drawing cards. So, unfortunately, the Doom Skull is next. We may have destroyed the possessor, but the Doom Skull is floating in right after that, and he's not messing about. He has 4 health, so 5 total, and no extra attack or defense behind his attacks, but he always attacks first. So this is the Doom Skull's attack on me, and it is a 6 and 4, so just 2. This brings my health down to 1. I'm going to use the scroll to vanquish this enemy. He is undead, so he is vanquishable. And now he is gone. That's 2 of my trappings cards. My mace would have done the job if the scroll hadn't, because I can inflict an additional 1 damage on successful hits against undead with the mace. For now, we go into our 3rd dungeon room. It's just a chasm. I don't want to fight this enemy, so I'm going to skip him. And then, instead of having to fight an enemy, we will encounter a trap in the sewers. That's going to get rid of 2 of our energy. Thank goodness, not the health. We are now able to rest at a campsite, finally. The campsite reference card lets us know that we can gain 2 health and 1 energy or search for provisions gaining a food. I need the health and the energy so badly. I also do need a food almost as badly, but I'll go ahead and gain the health and the energy because I have a pretty bleak outlook on how this is going to turn out. However, next is a water symbol, and the water symbol means that you can look for food. Roll 1 dice, and if the result is either a 5 or 6, you gain 1 food. Low chances, but it's not dangerous. There's no consequences if I roll low, I just don't get any food. We get no fish when trying to fish. That's why the gill net is such a great trappings card. Okay, on to our next one. It's the kitchen. There is an enemy here and there is a campsite, so I'm gonna not push my luck and face the enemy, whatever it is. And that means I missed out on the chance to get this question mark and a campsite. So it actually would have been better to get this card. We're gonna fight a skelipede and then rest at the campsite. If I can win against the skelipede, that is. Skelipedes do not miss when they attack, and they always reroll doubles. It is an undead enemy, and I attack first. I'm going to put 2 energy behind my attack so that I can add 5 damage to it and roll. And I rolled double 6s, which means my attack missed, my energy is squandered, my mace's ability doesn't come into play, the dice hate me, and the skelipede will now attack. The skelipede attacks with a 1 and a 2. For the first time ever, a really crappy roll from an enemy. Again, putting 2 energy behind my attack. Going to die, I just know it. A 3 and a 6. I forgot to set up his health. He will have 4 health, but he is gone. He's done. I got him down. He's out of here. Smashed his skelipede in. Get 1 favor, and we can continue. We go to the campsite. We gain 2 health and 1 energy. I need some energy, and The next card is just a chest icon, which means I'm definitely exploring this, and I hope that it's not empty. I almost, if I'd pushed my luck, it would have been monster trap chest, but instead, we get to see what we get. It's going to be random loot from the loot deck. Fantastic, great, amazing, awesome. What will it be? What will it be? It will be a shield. This is a great loot to get anytime you get it. Reduce damage from attacks by 1. Discard the shield though if you take 6 or more damage in a single blow. I am a true parson with my mace and my shield, a real cleric. And now we continue on our dungeon adventure. This is near the end. Whoops. I'm going to go ahead and go into the corridor. Missed a waterfall. Would have been probably better to do the waterfall. It looks like I'm going to lose 1 health because of the trap. And then I'm going to find myself at the altar. At the altar, our reference card tells us, based on how much faith we have, what happens when we pray and gain a blessing from the altar. I have 5, so I'm actually going to get 2 health and 1 energy, and that's fantastic. I hope that I can find the altar again. I wish the parson actually started with a little bit of favor. It would be very thematic. Okay, we've run out of dungeon cards, and now the thing to do is to shuffle these and start again, but there's a number of steps that we have to take before we can do that. We are moving into the second level of the dungeon. If we don't find all 3 shards by the time we clear the 5th level, the game ends. But the 5th level is so difficult, and by the way, so is the 4th and even the 3rd, because of the bonuses that they give to the enemies, that it's not likely that we'll survive that long anyway. However, you see how badly I did in the first dungeon. That was just when I got my foot into the door, an axe came down, immediately cut my foot off. The other thing that we have to do is we have to spend 1 ration, or else there are negative consequences. And I don't have any rations. I was not able to get rations, at least in addition to the other choices that I was making. If you don't have food, you suffer 3 damage to your health. There is no alternative. So this very well could have killed me if I had been down to the 3 or less level of health when I finished that last dungeon room. But now we're back, and we're going to visit the first dungeon room in floor 2, the Old Well. This will be a monster and a chance to catch some fish, but I'm going to go ahead and skip it, take it as the consequences instead, and move into the waterfall. The waterfall has water and a question mark, and the question mark is going to be dark rats. That's fantastic. I actually really like that. So, dark rats, when you defeat a dark rat, you gain 1 food. We're going to attack them. They have 3 health. Actually 4, because it's 2 plus the dungeon level, which is now 2, so 4. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to add 2 energy to it, because I didn't even need to. I didn't even need to do that. But I still killed the dark rats, I gained 1 favor, and I finally gained a food. If only I had done that before. We get to roll a die now, because we have found ourselves at a place where we can try to fish. I get no fish. The chasm's just an enemy, I'm going to skip it. Instead, it looks like I run into a trap and a question mark, and the trap is 2 energy, which puts me down to 0 energy, and the skelepede. Now I don't need to have energy to engage in a combat. So skelepede, which is going to have a health of 5 and does not miss when it attacks, so I won't need to put any extra force behind my attack, but I rolled doubles, it doesn't matter. I missed. The skelepede attacks for a 3, and unfortunately, I can't defend against that. I have a shield which brings that down to a 2, but I only have 2 health, and my character has perished. I should have used my ration, which you can eat at any time, to gain either 1 energy or 1 health, but that's okay. That's my game of Tin Helm. I've lost. I have won a few times playing, but the win to lose ratio it's quite disproportionate. It's a difficult time, but it feels really balanced on the challenging side, and it is really fun and thematic. So there are a number of promo cards that come with the other Tin games, and they include additional dungeon cards with additional consequences, enemies and treasures, lots more opportunity to get randoms from those, additional races such as the catfolk, the swinefolk, the half-folk, the constructs, and the half-orcs, and additional classes, the druid, the seer, the skullkeeper, the brute, and the adventurer. And you can combine these, obviously, with the class and race cards that you have for a ton of new combinations and new ways to play. I actually did a really, really good job. The last time I won Tin Helm, I won with a gnome druid. So this is a pretty winning combination here. The characters and classes come with additional trappings, the scroll, which allows... Wait, no. I put that in the wrong stack. The charm and the bracers. The bracers allow you to block an incoming attack by spending favor equal to the amount of damage your foe is dealing. The crystal, which allows you to spend 3 favor to avoid a trap or 4 favor to avoid a combat. The cutlass, which allows you to inflict an additional 1 damage on successful hits against non-undead enemies, so kind of the foil to the mace. And the charm, which allows you to charm dark rats. Charming dark rats has its own instructional card. Charming the dark rats does remove them from the monster deck, but they stay in your inventory as an item. While they are in your inventory, you ignore all future encounters with dark rats, obviously, and you can discard them to absorb all damage from a single attack from an enemy. That sounds so mean. Just throw in your rats at the enemy when they attack, so the rat takes the damage instead. But then you can charm them again when you come across them again in the future. Now, if you successfully complete a game of Tin Helm, you can play the next game in the Tin series, Tin Realm, and take your character on a journey to the city of Oaken's Helm. That's how I play anyway. Tin Realm has instructions to play from the beginning, but it is such a difficult game that I find it feels a lot more balanced to take a fully developed character from Tin Helm into it. We'll be looking at Tin Realm in the future, but it's set up pretty much the exact same way with the same trackers and deck configurations. There are different and new monsters to encounter on the road. But again, that's another video, so thank you so much for watching my playthrough of Tin Helm. I highly recommend this game, and I'll put a link to it in the description below. Highly recommend all of the Grey Gnome games as well. They are just really well designed, and the quality of the materials is just top-notch. All right, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, bye for now, brave heroes.